My name is Eleanor, and I'm 34 years old. Standing here in this luxury Paris hotel lobby, I can't help but touch the faded photo in my wallet. That skinny 11-year-old girl staring back at me survived something unthinkable. 23 years ago, my mother announced her surprise Europe trip over breakfast, then left that same afternoon. When I searched for money to buy food, all I found was $2 on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "For emergencies." Before I share what happened during that life-changing month, I'd love to know where you're watching from. If you've ever felt abandoned by someone you trusted, please subscribe and hit the like button. Your support helps me share these important stories. July 15th started like any other morning in our cramped Denver apartment. I was making scrambled eggs for my 7-year-old brother Tommy, while Mum rushed around the kitchen with this strange energy I'd never seen before. She kept avoiding my eyes, stuffing things into her purse, checking her phone every few seconds. Richard, my stepfather, had already left for his construction job at 5 that morning. The apartment felt different somehow, like the air before a thunderstorm. Tommy sat at our wobbly kitchen table, swinging his legs and humming some cartoon theme song, completely unaware that our world was about to shatter. Mum finally stopped moving and stood in the doorway. She was wearing a new dress I'd never seen before, bright red with little flowers on it. Her hair was styled differently too, all smooth and shiny, like the women in magazines. When did she have time to go to a salon? We barely had money for groceries most weeks. "Eleanor, sweetie, I have wonderful news," she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I won a contest at work, an all-expenses-paid trip to Europe with some girlfriends from the store." I stopped stirring the eggs. Mum worked part-time at Save Mart, stocking shelves 3 days a week. What kind of contest would a grocery store have for a Europe trip? Something cold settled in my stomach. When I asked, though, somehow I already knew the answer would be bad. "This afternoon, my flight leaves at 3. The spatula slipped from my hand and clattered on the floor. Tommy looked up from his cereal milk, dribbling down his chin. "Mommy going somewhere?" She walked over and ruffled his hair, but it felt mechanical, like she was acting out what a mother should do rather than feeling it. "Just for a little while, baby. Eleanor will take care of you." "Mum, you can't just leave. What about Tommy's day camp? What about food? What about—" I trailed off as she pulled a suitcase from behind the couch. It was already packed. This wasn't spontaneous. She'd been planning this. The suitcase was new too, or at least I'd never seen it before. Dark blue leather with gold buckles. Inside I caught glimpses of clothes with tags still on them. Designer labels. Where had all this come from? We'd been eating rice and beans for 2 weeks straight because money was tight. "Mrs. Patterson next door said she'd check in on you," Mum said, zipping up the suitcase. "You're so mature for your age, Eleanor. You'll be fine." Tommy had started crying, that slow build from whimper to wail that meant a full meltdown was coming. He wrapped his arms around Mum's leg, his little fingers clutching at her dress. "Don't go, Mommy. Please don't go." For just a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or doubt. But then it was gone, replaced by that fake, bright smile. She peeled Tommy's hands off her leg and pushed him gently toward me. "Eleanor will take care of you. She always does." That was true. I'd been taking care of Tommy since he was born. Changing diapers at 7 years old, warming bottles, walking him to preschool, while Mum slept off her wine headaches. But this was different. This was abandonment. A taxi honked outside. Mum grabbed her suitcase and purse, moving toward the door so fast it was like she was escaping a fire. "There's some money on the kitchen counter for emergencies. Mrs. Patterson has my number if you really need anything." "Mum, wait!" I called out, but the door was already closing. Through the window, I watched her throw her suitcase in the trunk and climb into the taxi without looking back. Not once did she turn around to wave. Tommy was sobbing now, his whole body shaking. I picked him up even though he was getting too heavy for me and carried him to the couch. "It's okay, Tommy. She'll be back soon. Want to watch cartoons?" But even as I said it, I knew something was very wrong. Moms didn't just leave like that. Not good mums anyway. After I got Tommy settled with his favourite show, I went to the kitchen counter. There it was, held down by the salt shaker. $2 bills, not 20, not 200, 2. I picked them up with shaking hands, turned them over, like maybe there were more hidden underneath. But no, just 2 wrinkled dollar bills and a sticky note that said 4 emergencies in Mum's handwriting. I opened every cabinet, the refrigerator, the freezer. We had half a jar of peanut butter, some stale bread, a bag of rice, 3 eggs and a can of green beans. That was it. The electricity bill was stuck to the fridge with a magnet, bright red letters saying, "Final notice." That first night, Tommy wouldn't stop crying. He kept asking when Mummy was coming back, and each time I said soon, the lie felt heavier in my mouth. I made him peanut butter sandwiches for dinner and told him we were having breakfast for dinner like it was something special instead of all we had. Richard came home after midnight drunk as usual. He stumbled to his bedroom without even asking where Mum was. The sound of his snoring filled the apartment while I lay awake, holding Tommy, who had finally cried himself to sleep. I kept thinking she'd come back. Maybe she'd realize what she'd done and take the next flight home. Maybe this was all some terrible misunderstanding. But as the hours ticked by and the apartment grew colder and quieter, I began to understand that we were truly alone. The next morning hit hard. Tommy woke up asking for Mum before his eyes were fully open. I told him she was still on her trip, trying to make it sound like an adventure instead of an abandonment. Richard had already left for work without checking on us. Probably didn't even realize Mum was gone. I took inventory of our situation. The pantry was basically empty except for some expired crackers and a box of pasta with no sauce. The electricity notice said we had 3 days before shut-off. There was a similar notice from the water company dated last week. How long had Mum been planning this escape? Tommy needed to go to his free summer day camp at the Baptist church. Thank God it included lunch and snacks, because I didn't know how I'd feed him otherwise. I walked him the 12 blocks making up stories about all the cool things Mum was seeing in Europe to keep him distracted. Is she seeing the Eiffel Tower? He asked, his little hand sweaty in mine. Probably, I said, and eating lots of French fries because they invented them there. They did. Sure. I had no idea if that was true, but it made him smile. After dropping him off, I walked back, slowly checking every payphone for forgotten quarters. Found 35 cents total. Our neighbour Mrs. Chen was working in her garden when I passed. She looked up and waved, her eyes narrowing slightly. Eleanor. Dear, where's your mother? I haven't seen her. She's at my Aunt Joyce's house, I lied smoothly. My grandma's sick. Mrs. Chen made a sympathetic noise. Oh, I hope she gets better soon. You taking care of your brother? Yes, ma'am. She studied my face for a moment, and I forced myself to look normal, whatever that meant. Finally, she nodded and went back to her tomatoes, but I could feel her watching as I went inside. That night, after Richard passed out, I snuck into the backyard with a plastic bag. Our neighbourhood was full of gardens, and in the darkness, I became a thief. 3 tomatoes from the Johnsons' yard, a handful of green beans from the Nguyen's, some lettuce from Mrs. Patterson, who was supposedly checking on us, but hadn't knocked once. My hands shook the whole time. Every sound made me freeze, certain someone would catch me. But hunger is a powerful motivator. Tommy needed vegetables. He was growing, the doctor said at his last checkup. He needed proper nutrition. We ate salad for dinner, and I told Tommy we were being healthy like athletes. He believed me because he was 7 and still thought I had answers. Richard never came home that night. By day 3, the electricity got shut off. I told Tommy we were camping indoors, and wasn't it fun to use flashlights? We made a fort in the living room with blankets and pillows, and I told him stories by flashlight until he fell asleep. Then I sat in the dark and tried not to cry. The next morning, I knew I had to get creative. I searched the entire apartment for money, found $4.67 in the couch cushions, $2 in Richard's truck, which he'd left unlocked, 50 cents under the washing machine. With $7 total, I walked to Save Mart where Mum worked. Maybe her co-workers would help if they knew, but when I got there, nobody seemed surprised she was gone. Linda quit 2 weeks ago, the manager told me when I asked. Said she had something better lined up. 2 weeks ago. She'd been planning this for at least 2 weeks and never said a word. I bought a loaf of bread, a jar of the cheapest peanut butter, and a bag of apples that were on clearance because they were bruised. That left me with 12 cents. The cashier, an older woman named Dorothy, who knew Mum, gave me a long look. You okay, sweetie? Yes, ma'am. Mum's just busy with my sick grandma. She nodded slowly, then slipped an extra apple in my bag when she thought I wasn't looking. I wanted to cry at that small kindness. The walk home took me past the gas station. I needed toilet paper, but we had no money for it. So I went into the bathroom and unrolled as much as I could stuff in my backpack, my face burning with shame. The attendant watched me leave, and I knew he knew, but he didn't say anything. That evening, Tommy asked why the lights wouldn't work. I told him there was a problem with the electricity in the neighbourhood, and we had to wait for them to fix it. He believed me because I was his big sister, and I'd never lied to him before all this started. By day 5, I'd become an accomplished liar and thief. I developed a system rotating between 3 different stores so nobody would notice the pattern. A box of crackers from the corner store slipped into my backpack while pretending to tie my shoe. A can of soup from the drugstore hidden in my jacket pocket while I bought a pack of gum with my last quarter to avoid suspicion. The closest call came at Kumar's corner store. Mr. Kumar had eyes like a hawk, always watching the neighborhood kids who came in for candy. I had managed to slide a box of mac and cheese into my bag when he called out, "Eleanor." My blood turned to ice. I turned around slowly, sure he was about to call the police. "Your mother hasn't been in lately. She okay?" "She's visiting my sick grandma." I said the lie automatic now. He studied me for a long moment. I could see him taking in my unwashed hair, my too big t-shirt that hadn't been cleaned in days, the way I was clutching my backpack. "Tell her I hope her mother gets better," he finally said. "And Eleanor, there's a special today. Buy one candy bar, get a box of mac and cheese free." I stared at him. There was no such special. We both knew it. "I don't have money for a candy bar," I whispered. He reached under the counter and pulled out a Snickers. "This one's expired. Can't sell expired candy. Would be ashamed to throw it away though." My eyes burned as I took the candy bar and the mac and cheese he pushed across the counter. "Thank you. Take care of your brother," he said softly, "and come back if you need more expired candy." The second week changed everything. Richard finally noticed Mum was gone on day 8, and his rage was volcanic. I'd just gotten Tommy to sleep when Richard burst into Mum's bedroom. He'd been looking for money to buy beer, I think, when he realised her things were missing. The sound of drawers being yanked out and thrown against walls woke Tommy, who started crying. "Where is she?" Richard roared, appearing in our doorway. His face was red veins bulging in his neck. "Where's your mother?" "Europe," I said, pushing Tommy behind me. "She won a trip." He laughed, but it was ugly sharp. A trip that lying witch didn't win nothing. He stumbled back to their bedroom, and I heard more crashes, papers flying. 20 minutes later, he came out holding a stack of credit card statements. His face had gone from red to white. "Look at this," he said, throwing them at me. "Look what your precious mother did." I picked up the papers with shaking hands. The numbers didn't make sense at first. $47,000 in debt. Multiple cards all maxed out. Purchases from Nordstrom Saks restaurants I'd never heard of. Hotels, jewelry stores. "There's more," Richard said, slumping on the couch. For the first time since he'd married Mum 4 years ago, he looked broken instead of mean. Found her secret bank account papers. She's been moving money for months. Probably 50 grand, maybe more. "From where?" I asked. "We don't have money. My workers' comp settlement from last year, my back injury, $60,000. It's all gone." He laughed again, that horrible sound. "And here's the best part. Your mum's been screwing around with that dentist, Dr. Martin." I knew Dr. Martin. He'd filled my cavity last year, kept touching Mum's shoulder, making her laugh. His wife had been in the waiting room reading a magazine, oblivious. "His wife called me last month," Richard continued. "Had pictures and everything. Your mum and him at hotels, restaurants, kissing in his car. Been going on for a year. A year. All those times Mum said she was working extra shifts she was with him. All those nights I made dinner for Tommy, helped him with homework, gave him baths. She was pretending we didn't exist. That Europe trip ain't with no girlfriends," Richard said. "She's with him." He stood up, suddenly grabbed his keys. "I'm done. Good luck, kid." "Wait, you can't leave us too," I said, panic rising in my throat. "Watch me," he said, and walked out. He didn't come back for 3 days. Alone in the apartment with Tommy, I did something I'd been avoiding. I climbed up to the attic where Mum kept old boxes. If she'd been planning this for months, maybe she'd left other clues. I found it wedged between Christmas decorations and Tommy's baby clothes. A small leather journal hidden inside an old shoebox. Mum's handwriting dated 6 months ago. The entries made me sick. "David says we can start fresh in California after Europe. No kids, no responsibilities, just us. Eleanor's strong. She's been taking care of Tommy since he was born anyway. They'll be fine." Took another $5,000 from Richard's account today. He's too drunk to notice. David's divorce will be final next month. His wife gets the house, but he's hidden most of his money offshore. Sometimes I look at the kids and feel nothing. Is that normal? David says I'm just evolving past traditional motherhood. That one hit the hardest. She looked at us and felt nothing. There were more entries about the money she'd taken. The credit cards she'd opened in Richard's name, the lies she'd told. But the worst part was how she talked about Tommy and me like we were problems to be solved, not her children. Eleanor's college fund had $300, took it for the plane tickets. She's smart, she'll get scholarships. I'd been saving that money since I was 8 birthday dollars and Christmas money dreaming about college. Gone for her plane ticket to abandon us. Tommy got sick on day 10. woke up with 102 fever crying that his head hurt. We had no medicine, no money for medicine, no insurance, because Mum had let it lapse months ago according to the papers I'd found. I wrapped him in wet towels to bring the fever down, but it wasn't working. Mrs. Chen knocked around noon and I almost didn't answer. But Tommy was moaning and I was desperate. "Eleanor, sweetheart, where's your mother?" she asked, taking in the dark apartment, no electricity, Tommy shivering on the couch. "She had to go help my sick grandma," I said. But my voice cracked. Mrs. Chen pushed past me, felt Tommy's forehead. "This child needs medicine. Where's your medicine cabinet?" "We don't have any medicine." She gave me a long look, then went to her apartment. Came back with children's Tylenol and a thermometer. "Give him this every 4 hours. Keep the fever down. If it goes above 103, you call 911, understand?" After she left, I knew I had to do something drastic. There was an abandoned house 3 blocks over where older kids sometimes went to smoke. Maybe there was medicine there, things people left behind. I waited until Tommy fell asleep, then slipped out. The house was dark, smelled like mold and cat pee. I used my flashlight to search, finding an old bathroom with a medicine cabinet still full. Grabbed everything that looked useful, antibiotics that were only expired by 6 months, cough syrup, bandages. I was stuffing them in my backpack when I heard sirens. Police. Someone had seen my flashlight. I ran to the back bedroom, found a crawl space and squeezed inside, just as the front door burst open. "Police! Come out with your hands up!" I held my breath, pressing myself against spiderwebs and God knows what else. They searched for 20 minutes, flashlights scanning everywhere. One cop stood right in front of the crawl space and I could see his boots through a crack. "Just kids messing around," he finally said. "Boarded up better this time." They left and I waited another hour before crawling out. Ran home through backyard's medicine rattling in my bag. Tommy was still asleep, fever down slightly. The antibiotics were probably useless, but the cough syrup helped him sleep through the night. Week 3 was when the system nearly caught us. Mrs. Williams, the school counsellor, called the apartment 5 times before I finally answered, pretending to be Mom. "Mrs. Henderson, this is Carol Williams from Roosevelt Elementary. I'm calling about Eleanor and Tommy's registration for fall." I deepened my voice, tried to sound tired like Mum always did. "Oh yes, registration. I've been meaning to handle that." "Well, we need to schedule a home visit. It's a new policy for families who've had attendance issues." My heart stopped. We'd missed too many days last year when Mum was too hungover to get us ready. Now they wanted to visit. "Oh, that won't be necessary. We're actually moving. My mother is sick in Florida and we're relocating to help with her care." There was a pause. "I see. Well, we'll need transfer paperwork. Can you come by the office this week?" "Of course. Friday afternoon." I hung up, hands shaking. We couldn't stay hidden much longer. Tommy's day camp had ended, which meant no more free lunches. He was with me everywhere now, making it harder to steal food. But I'd gotten creative. Found a church that served free dinners on Wednesdays if you sat through the service. A food bank that didn't ask questions if you went right before closing. A bakery that threw out day-old bread at exactly 9 p.m. But the babysitting disaster nearly ruined everything. I'd answered an ad for emergency babysitting, told them I was 16. The woman was desperate, didn't check references. $20 to watch her kid for 3 hours. Enough for a week of food. I brought Tommy, told him to watch TV quietly. Everything was fine until the parents came home an hour early. The husband was drunk, the wife furious about something. They started screaming at each other, then noticed Tommy. "Who's this kid?" the husband demanded. "My brother. My mum had an emergency, so—" "You brought another kid into our house without asking." The wife's voice was shrill. "Get out, and we're not paying you." We left with nothing, Tommy crying because the man had yelled at him. $20 gone, and now I was scared they'd call someone, report us. I tried calling Mum's sister in Denver that night, desperate for help. The number was disconnected. Directory assistants had no listing. Another dead end. The knock came the next morning. Child Protective Services. Mrs. Patterson had finally done her checking and seen the dark apartment, me and Tommy looking homeless, and called. "Hello, I'm looking for Linda Henderson," the social worker said. "African-American woman, Kanai's clipboard that could destroy our lives." "She's at the store," I said, blocking the doorway. "She'll be back soon. May I come in and wait?" My mind raced. The apartment's being fumigated. That's why we're staying at my grandma's. Mum just came by to get some clothes. She looked skeptical. "And where is your grandmother's house?" "Over on Maple Street, the blue one with the garden gnomes." That was Mrs. Chen's house. I prayed she wouldn't check. I'll need to speak with your mother. Have her call me. She handed me a card. Today, please. After she left, I knew we were out of time. That night, I made the hardest decision yet. Richard had come back briefly drunk and mean, looking for things to sell. I hid Tommy in our room and confronted him. There's a lockbox in Mum's closet, I said, hidden under the floorboard. It has some jewelry she left. His eyes lit up with greed. Show me. It was a trap. I knew he'd have to pry up the floorboard making noise. While he was distracted, I grabbed his wallet from his back pocket. $300 cash, probably from selling our TV. He realized too late. Spun around, grabbed my wrist. You little thief! Let go, I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. His grip tightened. That's my money. I grabbed the kitchen knife I'd hidden in my waistband, pressed it against his arm. Not hard enough to cut, just enough to make a point. Tommy needs food. You haven't bought groceries once in 2 years. This is ours. He stared at me, and for a moment I thought he'd hit me. Then he laughed, that same ugly sound from before. You're just like your mother, cold little witch. He let go, grabbed the jewelry from the lockbox and left. This time I knew he wouldn't come back. But the neighborhood was getting dangerous. The gang that hung out at the park had noticed our dark apartment, Richard's absence. They started using our front yard for deals, leaving beer cans and worse. I could hear them at night, laughing, sometimes fighting. I barricaded the door with the couch, kept the baseball bat next to my bed. Tommy had stopped talking completely, just stared at nothing. My hair was falling out in chunks from stress. I'd lost 15 pounds I didn't have to lose. One night someone tried the door handle, jiggled it for 5 minutes, while I sat in the dark bat in my hands. Tommy pressed against my side. They finally gave up, but I knew we weren't safe. I'd become a different person, could case a store in seconds, knowing exactly where the cameras were, which employees watched closely, which ones didn't care. Developed a route between 3 stores, never hitting the same one twice in a week. Knew which churches gave food without sermons, which food banks asked for ID. But it wasn't enough. We were drowning and nobody was coming to save us. Week 4 was when I decided to stop being a victim. Something shifted in me after that night with the door handle. I wasn't going to wait for Mum to come back, or Richard to help, or the system to save us. I was going to save us myself. First, I broke into Mum's locked filing cabinet with a screwdriver. Inside were documents she'd never wanted me to see. Her life insurance policy with me as beneficiary worth $50,000. Not useful now, but good to know. Then I found something better. My grandmother's information. Margaret Thompson, Sarasota, Florida. Mum had told us her mother died when I was 5. Another lie. I called from a payphone using some of the money I'd taken from Richard. Hello. The voice was old but strong. Is this Margaret Thompson, Linda Henderson's mother? There was a sharp intake of breath. Who is this? I'm Eleanor, your granddaughter. Silence. Then, oh my God, Eleanor, Linda told me you didn't want contact. Said you hated me for the divorce. She left us, I said, and suddenly I was crying. She went to Europe with her boyfriend and left us with $2. Tommy's 7. We have no food, no electricity. I don't know what to do. I heard her crying too. That awful girl. I knew something was wrong when she cut contact 5 years ago. Where are you? Where's your father? He's not our father, and he left too. We're in Denver, in the apartment. Listen to me, Eleanor. There's a Western Union 2 blocks from your apartment. I'm wiring money right now. $500. Can you get there? Yes, ma'am. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. You hold on, baby. You hold on. That $500 changed everything. First I paid the electricity bill, got the power back on. Then groceries, real groceries. Tommy ate 3 apples in a row, his first fresh fruit in 2 weeks. But I wasn't done taking control. I went back to Mum's papers. Found her social security number, her bank information. Called the utility company pretending to be her, got on a payment plan. Found her old checkbook, practiced her signature until it was perfect. Wrote a check for the water bill. Then I got bold. Went to the church that ran the food bank, told them the truth. Part of it anyway. Said Mum was sick and I was taking care of my brother. The pastor's wife, Mrs. Martinez, set us up with weekly food boxes, no questions asked. You're very brave, she said, watching me load canned goods into a bag. I'm not brave, I told her. I'm just doing what needs to be done. I started a business. Not a real business, but close enough. Put up flyers for house cleaning. $15 a house could bring my well-behaved brother. Got 3 clients the first week. Mrs. Chen hired me to help with her garden, though I suspected she didn't really need help. Paid me $20 to pull weeds Tommy could have pulled. Word spread quietly through the neighborhood. The Henderson kids were alone, but the girl was handling it. People started helping in small ways. The mailman accidentally delivered extra coupons for groceries. The baker had more day-old bread than usual. Mr. Kumar's expired candy special became a regular thing. I documented everything with a disposable camera I bought at the drugstore. Pictures of the empty fridge, the disconnection notices, the $2 Mum left. Her diary entries, the credit card statements, everything. Built a case like I'd seen on Law & Order. Then I wrote a letter to Dr. Martin's wife. Included copies of Mum's diary entries about their affair, the credit card charges at hotels. Mailed it to her office where her husband wouldn't intercept it. 3 days later, a package arrived. No return address, but inside was an envelope with $1,000 cash and a note for the children. I'm sorry for what my husband did to your family. Guilt money, but I didn't care. It meant we could survive until Grandma arrived. I taught Tommy what to say if anyone asked about Mum. She was visiting sick Grandma. We were fine. Yes, we had food. No, we didn't need help. He practiced until he could say it without his voice shaking. The neighborhood kids became my intelligence network. Paid them in candy to watch for social workers, police anyone official looking. They'd whistle if someone was coming, giving me time to make the apartment look normal. By the end of week 4, I'd transformed from scared little girl to survivor. I had $3,000 hidden in 5 different places. A week's worth of food stockpiled. The utilities were on. Tommy was healthy, even if he still wasn't talking much. We were going to make it. Day 31. I was washing dishes when the taxi pulled up. Through the window, I saw her get out. Tanned, wearing a white sundress I'd never seen before, pulling designer luggage from the trunk. She walked up the path like nothing had happened. Used her key, came in smiling. Hi babies, I'm home. Did you miss me? I didn't turn around. Just kept washing the same plate over and over. Tommy, who'd been colouring at the table, went rigid. Then he got up and hid behind me, pressing his face into my back. Eleanor, Tommy, aren't you going to welcome me home? I finally turned off the water, dried my hands slowly and faced her. She actually stepped back when she saw my face. I'd aged years in a month, lost weight I didn't have to lose, had dark circles like bruises under my eyes. My God, Eleanor, what happened to you? What happened to me? My voice was calm, scary calm. You left us with $2. $2, Mom. She laughed nervously. Don't be dramatic. I left you money and Mrs. Patterson was checking on you. Mrs. Patterson never came once. The electricity was shut off. We ate stolen food for 3 weeks. Tommy got sick with 102 fever and I had to break into an abandoned house for medicine. Her fake tan seemed to pale. You're exaggerating. I walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out the folder I'd prepared, set it on the table between us. Everything's documented. Photos of the empty fridge, the $2, the disconnection notices. Your diary where you wrote that you felt nothing when you looked at us. She reached for the folder, but I pulled it back. I know about Dr. Martin, I continued. His wife knows too. She sent us money for what you both did. You contacted his wife. Her voice went shrill. You had no right. I had no right. You stole my college fund. You maxed out credit cards in Richard's name. You took his entire settlement, $60,000, while we were eating rice for dinner. That money was mine too. I'm his wife. Were, I said. He left. Haven't seen him in a week. She looked around the apartment, seeing it clearly for the first time. It was clean, but empty. We'd sold everything valuable. The TV, the stereo, her jewellery that she'd left behind. Where's my jewellery box? Sold it. We needed food. Her face twisted into something ugly. You little thief, those were mine. Like my college fund was mine. She raised her hand to slap me. 20 years of muscle memory from cowering when she was drunk almost made me flinch. Almost. Instead, I caught her wrist, held it firmly. Never again, I said quietly. We stared at each other. She tried to pull away, but I was stronger now. All that cleaning houses, hauling Tommy everywhere, surviving, had made me strong. The door opened. Grandma Margaret walked in. She'd been waiting in her rental car watching for my signal. Mum's face went white. Mother, what are you doing here? Cleaning up your mess as usual, Margaret said. She looked exactly like an older version of Mum, but her eyes were kind. Hello, Eleanor. Hello, Tommy. Tommy peeked out from behind me. Are you really our grandma? Yes, sweetheart. And I'm so sorry I haven't been here before. Mum tried to regroup. This is family business, Mother. You need to leave. Family? Margaret laughed bitterly. You told me these children wanted nothing to do with me. 5 years of lies, Linda. They're my children. No, I said, pulling out the tape recorder I'd hidden in my pocket. It had been recording since Mum walked in. We're not your children. You wrote that yourself. We're just problems you wanted to escape. I played back her words from the last 30 minutes. Her admitting she'd left us with no plan for our care, that she knew Mrs. Patterson wouldn't check on us, that she'd stolen Richard's money. That's illegal, Mum sputtered. Recording without consent. So is child abandonment, Margaret said. She pulled out legal documents. Temporary guardianship papers. Sign them or we go to the police with Eleanor's evidence. You can't take my children. Watch me, Margaret said. I've already spoken to a lawyer. With Eleanor's documentation, you'll be facing criminal charges. Abandonment, theft, fraud. You'll go to prison, Linda. Mum's confidence finally cracked. David said he loved me, said we'd start fresh in California. Let me guess, I said. He dumped you in Europe. Her silence was answer enough. Richard chose that moment to return. He was sober, looked tired. Saw the taxi, figured the witch was back. Richard, Mum started, but he held up his hand. Save it. I've been documenting everything too. My lawyer says with the fraud and theft, I'll get everything in the divorce. What little is left anyway. Mum looked around the room at all of us. For the first time since I could remember, she looked small, lost. I maxed out the credit cards David gave me, she whispered, in Paris. He found out and left me at the hotel. I had to borrow money from another tourist to get home. I have nothing. Neither did we, I said, but we survived anyway. She signed the papers. Didn't even read them, just signed. Then she picked up her suitcase and walked to the door. Can I at least say goodbye to them? I looked at Tommy, who pressed harder against my leg. He doesn't want to talk to you. Maybe someday, but not today. She nodded, tears finally coming. But I couldn't tell if she was crying for us or for herself. After she left, the apartment felt lighter. Grandma Margaret hugged us both, and Tommy actually hugged her back. Pack your things, she said. We're going to a hotel tonight. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. I don't have much to pack, I said. Then we'll go shopping after the hotel. She cupped my face in her hands. You saved him, Eleanor. You saved both of you. I'm so proud of you. For the first time in 31 days, I cried. Really cried. All the fear and anger and exhaustion pouring out while Grandma held me and Tommy patted my back with his little hand. It's okay, Ellie, he whispered. We're okay now. It was the first thing he'd said in 2 weeks. The healing wasn't instant. Trauma doesn't just disappear because the danger passes. Grandma moved into the apartment temporarily while she sorted out legal custody. She wanted to take us back to Florida eventually, but understood we needed stability first. Tommy started therapy immediately. For weeks, he would only whisper, and only to me or Grandma. He had nightmares every night, waking up crying for Mom, then remembering she'd left and crying harder. The therapist said it would take time. That abandonment at that age leaves deep scars. My own therapy was harder. I'd been in survival mode for so long I didn't know how to stop. I hoarded food in my room, counted and recounted the money Grandma gave me for lunch. Couldn't sleep without checking the locks 5 times. Had panic attacks in grocery stores, convinced someone would catch me stealing, even though I wasn't. The physical recovery was easier. My hair grew back slowly. I gained weight, learnt to eat regular meals again, instead of saving everything for Tommy. The dark circles faded. But inside, I felt like I'd aged decades. Richard surprised everyone by getting sober. Turns out almost losing everything was his rock bottom. He entered rehab, started going to meetings, started acting like an actual father figure to Tommy for the first time. He couldn't take custody, but he visited regularly, teaching Tommy to throw a baseball, helping with homework. I'm sorry, he told me one day. I should have protected you both. We protected ourselves, I said, and meant it. School started in September. Grandma enrolled us in a better district using her address. I threw myself into studying, determined to earn those scholarships Mum had mentioned so casually. Every A felt like revenge. Every award was proof that I was more than what she'd left behind. Tommy slowly came back to himself, started talking in full sentences by October, made friends at his new school, still wouldn't talk about Mum, but his therapist said that was normal. He drew pictures instead. Lots of pictures of me as a superhero saving him from monsters. Mum sent postcards with no return address. Generic messages like, thinking of you and hope you're well. We didn't respond. Grandma saved them in case Tommy wanted them someday, but I knew he wouldn't. She'd broken something in him that would never fully heal. We learnt from Richard's lawyer that Mum was living with her sister in Phoenix, working as a cashier at a department store. Dr. Martin had gone back to his wife, who'd forgiven him, apparently. Mum was alone exactly as she'd left us. I found I didn't hate her. Hate takes energy, and I needed all my energy for building our new life. But I couldn't forgive her either. Forgiveness felt too much like saying what she did was okay, and it would never be okay. By Christmas, we'd moved to Florida with Grandma. New state, new start. Tommy thrived in the sunshine, made friends easily. I joined the debate team, student government, anything that kept me busy and looked good on college applications. Years passed. I graduated valedictorian full scholarship to University of Florida. Then law school also on scholarship. Specialized in family law, specifically child abandonment and custody cases. Turns out trauma can become purpose if you let it. Tommy grew up kind despite everything. Became a teacher, said I'd inspired him. Works with at-risk kids, now the ones everyone else writes off. He can spot an abandoned child from across a playground, knows exactly what to say to make them feel seen. We both went to therapy for years. Learned that survival mode isn't sustainable, that hypervigilance isn't the same as being prepared. Learned to trust people again, slowly, carefully. Some days were harder than others. Birthdays especially, wondering if Mum remembered. Richard stayed in our lives surprisingly. Stayed sober, remarried a nice woman named Patricia, who treated Tommy like her own son. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding, cried harder than Grandma. Mum tried to reconnect when I turned 25. Sent a long letter about her own trauma, her childhood, her mental health struggles. How she'd been diagnosed with several disorders, was in treatment, wanted to make amends. I wrote back once. Told her I was glad she was getting help, but that her healing couldn't come at the expense of ours. That Tommy and I had built good lives without her, and we intended to keep them that way. That I hoped she found peace, but it wouldn't be with us. She never wrote again. Now I'm 34, standing in this Paris hotel for an international conference on child welfare law. The irony isn't lost on me. This is the same hotel Dr. Martin brought her to, according to the credit card statements I'd found all those years ago. But I'm here because I earned it through my work protecting abandoned children, making sure what happened to us doesn't happen to them. My phone buzzes. It's Tommy sending a photo from his classroom. His students made him a birthday card. He's 31 today, a successful, happy adult despite those 31 days that tried to break him. Thank you, his text says, like it does every year on his birthday, for saving me. We saved each other. I text back like I always do. And it's true. Those 31 days of abandonment forged us into survivors, then thrivers. We learnt that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about who shows up when the lights are off and the cupboards are empty. It's Mrs. Chen secretly paying me to pull weeds Tommy could have pulled. It's Mr. Kumar and his expired candy specials. It's Grandma Margaret flying across the country to save grandchildren she'd never met. Sometimes the worst betrayals create the strongest people. Mum leaving us with $2 taught me I could survive anything. It taught me that I was capable of more than I ever imagined. It taught me that love isn't just a feeling, it's an action repeated daily, especially when it's hard. I help hundreds of abandoned children now through my work. Each case breaks my heart and fills it simultaneously. Every child I help is that 11-year-old girl I was scared and hungry but refusing to give up. Every victory in court is a victory for Tommy and me too. The conference is starting. I'm speaking on a panel about emergency interventions for abandoned children. The other panelists don't know my story. To them, I'm just a successful lawyer with an impressive track record. They don't know about the $2, the dark apartment, the stolen tomatoes, or the little boy who stopped talking. But I know. I carry those 31 days with me always. Not as a burden, but as a reminder. That children are stronger than we think. That survival can become purpose. That the worst thing that happens to you can become the foundation for helping others. I think about Mum, sometimes wonder if she ever understood what she threw away. 2 incredible children who would have loved her unconditionally if she'd just stayed. But her loss became our gain. We learnt to love ourselves, to protect each other, to build a family from the people who chose to stay. Standing here in Paris, successful and whole, I realised something. Mum going to Europe didn't break us. It revealed us. Showed us who we really were underneath the abandonment and fear. We were warriors. We were survivors. We were enough. We always had been. I wonder if you've ever faced something that seemed impossible to survive. What gave you the strength to keep going? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. If this message resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over adversity. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know. Thank you for letting me share our journey with you today. Remember, sometimes the hardest battles create the strongest warriors, and you're stronger than you'll ever know until being strong is your only choice.